Hi everyone, Favrah here with Heart's Awakening, budding herbalist, Reiki master, Akashic Records reader, and hypnotherapist. Today I want to talk about trauma. I hear often people either not seeing their own trauma or not wanting to see their own trauma, or not wanting maybe isn't the best way to put that, but regardless, I hear a lot about trauma and there's a lot of misconceptions about trauma, how they are, what they do, where they come from. So I wanted to talk about that just with the information that I have and the understanding I have from work that I've done. I've been working on my own trauma for roughly 11 years now, finding it, working through it, doing my best to heal as deep as I can go. Sometimes it's surface, sometimes it's deeper. So I just want to talk about first something called perceived trauma. It's something that happens to us usually when we're quite young that we can't really see as an adult, because we're using our adult mind to go back through our life, as we do sometimes when we are like, why am I doing this? Why is this a thing that I do? And we start to evaluate and look back and look for evidence of trauma. What often happens though is we can't see it because we're using our adult, well-versed in the world minds to try to experience something or try to see something that could be posed or perceived as traumatic from our young minds. Especially if you don't have any like very blatant, obvious sexual trauma, abuse trauma. Sometimes trauma isn't so obvious, I guess. Trauma can be sneaky, if you will. So we're using our adult mind that understands the world and understands why things are the way they are for the most part, to look back at something that potentially happened to us when we were quite young and didn't have the life experiences or the knowledge or the understanding that we have today. So when we do that, it's really difficult to see our trauma because our adult mind is trying to look for it. But if you did age regression, past life regression, usually age regression is enough. There's things that you just can't potentially see. You can see better because you're doing a regression and you can feel it, you can feel it as if it's happening for the very first time rather than see it from your adult mind looking backwards. I'll give you an example. When I think I was about 6 months old, and I can post a picture just so you can see. There's a picture of me and my sister. We're hanging out in my crib. I'm about 6 months old. I think she's just over 2. She was like 2.5 years older than me approximately. So she was about 2. And apparently my crib was wet. My mom used cloth diapers, so inevitably the crib's going to be wet eventually. And mom just hadn't had a chance to get to me yet, and my sister was super excited to hang out with me because she loved me then. So she moved me out of the only dry spot in the crib so she could hang out with me. We even have a picture of it. My mom took a picture. She thought it was super cute, super adorable. My sister like looking up at my mom. It's really sweet. I did something called a transpersonal, I think regression therapy with a healer friend of mine. Pardon me for the ums. With a healer friend of mine. And I learned that is where my anger stemmed from. So anger for me presented as I would yell a lot. I was quick, like at a very short fuse. And I didn't want to be in relationship with anybody, but especially my spouse, and be yelling all the time and feel like I just felt so angry all of the time because I was reliving some experiences. Because what often happens also with our trauma is there's the stamp of the initial incident, if you will, and then anything that remotely resembles that feeling, not necessarily that event, but that feeling gets imprinted in us in like little micro but very impactful experiences in our life. So these were all sort of coming to the surface with my newer relationship, and I was feeling anger all the time. Full disclosure, I had started to a slight degree harming myself because I didn't know what to do with all of this anger and all of these feelings that I was having. I didn't know how to process it by myself. So I went to my friend who's a healer, and we did transpersonal therapy, and there was hypnosis involved and basically finding out where my anger originated. And it was this time in my crib. And it seemed so confusing because as me and my family had always laughed about this and like thought it was so adorable that my sister wanted to just hang out with me. She was willing to do anything to hang out with me. So it was very confusing as an adult to see that this was a hugely traumatic event for my 6-month-old self with very little understanding of the world, if no understanding of the world really, because I'm only 6 months old. That is where my anger originated. And really the anger was love. I just had to unmask it. Regardless, we don't need to go into all of that. The point is that I would have never guessed that that is where my anger originated. I still have anger, but it's not this deep-seated, rooted, impactful, hang on to everything event for me anymore. It's like, ooh, hey, I'm angry. Let's talk about that. Let's work through that. It's no longer something that's all-consuming and takes over for me. So being able to go backwards and look in a hypnotherapy session or Akashic Records readings or even Reiki can be hugely impactful to be able to see where your originating incident occurred, for lack of a better way to put that. It's really important to not always look at it from our adult mind, because we have way more understanding than we did as a child from our very young mind. And one of the things about trauma that I think is so important to remember, and why I tell people all of the time that we are emotional beings that think occasionally, not thinking beings that emote occasionally, is because our emotion is felt throughout our entire body. There's a book out there called The Body Keeps the Score by a guy named Bessel van der Kolk. I will post it in the comments so you guys can look up this book yourself. Essentially, what it's saying is that before our brain even registers a traumatic event for us, our muscles have already absorbed it and have felt it and are hanging on to it. It's why it's so important that we bridge the gap between surgeries and mental health. But that's a whole other topic I can talk about another day. If you have any questions about trauma, please don't hesitate to post them in the comments below. I could talk about trauma all day. It's something I'm very passionate about. I really love being able to facilitate and guide people in a very gentle and loving, full of ease and grace way to see where their trauma originates from, so that we can take the charge out of that emotion and allow them to start to release and let it go. Again, my name is Favrah. I'm with Hearts Awakening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I plan on doing these as often as I can. I have so many beautiful things to talk about, and I hope you enjoy listening. And please don't hesitate to contact me in the comments. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much.